My name is Moises. My resolve is to suspend physician-assisted suicide in the United States. And I'm going to work on the workability and disadvantages of the affirmative. First of all, the first thing that we heard out of the affirmative side's mouth was that people had the right to physician-assisted suicide. I am willing to challenge that, as in June 26, 1997, the U.S. Supreme Court majority opinion said, "The asserted right to assistance in committing suicide is not a fundamental liberty." This is in the case Washington versus Clarksburg. The affirmative also says that there is wide support for physician-assisted suicide across the nation. I would also like to challenge that in terms of its workability. Maine is a popular example in which the general support for physician-assisted suicide was strong up until the opposing side developed evidence and information, up until which, when polls showed the opposition exceeding the support, and the referendum failed in Maine. Not only that, but here in our state, California, in 1999, a bill went down in defeat due in part to an opposition coalition spanning the political spectrum, not just from the right or the left, but from both sides. And the coalition consisted of disability rights organizations, workers, poor people, physicians, other healthcare workers, hospice organizations, Catholics, Protestants, all types of religions, and Right to Life organizations. This was cited by Golden, Maryland, in Why Assisted Suicide Must Not Be Legalized. Not only that, but our side has also made a statement that it would conflict with the Hippocratic Oath. I have not heard a redeeming fact from the opposing side that would say that it would not conflict with the Hippocratic Oath, and therefore would challenge a lot of physicians in providing this care to their patients. Not only that, but this society is also based on life. We are a Western society that, generally speaking, puts a value on each and every life. To stomp out a life because it's inconvenient or it's expensive demeans that value. Human life is much more than just a cluster of biological cells, says Messerly. Messerly also says that the most basic commandment in any religion is, "Thou shalt not kill." Putting that into example, we can see that there would be it would be difficult to pass such a legislation. Let's take into example that that a legislation was passed across the nation to provide physician-assisted suicide. What would be the disadvantage of such a piece of legislation? Messerly shows that, especially now with Obamacare in place, to keep premiums down, they want health insurance companies must cut costs at every turn and make tough decisions. Many doctors are already prevented from giving patients certain tests or performing certain operations, despite what the doctor believes is truly necessary. And in case, we should not give the insurance companies any more power over human lives. Not only that, but there is plenty of examples of abuse, especially from what is previously exampled as the Netherlands in their nation, in which doctors have the ability to play God and decide who they encourage or discourage on prospects of recovery. For example, imagine a doctor who believes there is too much of a shortage in medical staff and resources to pour extra time and money in elderly people. Messerly asserts that if we were to provide such a legislation, such an option to terminally ill patients, that it could easily be abused by the physician. And as a matter of fact, they could, and they did, in the Netherlands. And the reason that they get away with it is based on the legal precedent of good faith. They practice good faith, and all legal accusations go away because the physician did not mean to harm the patient, or the patient might have been in a medical, might have been mentally depressed or such, and they didn't know. So in good faith, we're supposed to take this. not only this, but there's a certain aspect of physician care that does not effectively account for depression in most of patients who are terminally ill, in which assisted suicide, if assisted suicide was legal, the depression remains undiagnosed by the physician, and the only treatment consists of a legal prescription, of which there is no, the patient ultimately chooses the final choice to end their lives, instead of pursuing additional treatments and such. If we look towards Oregon, which has based its physician-assisted suicide legislation, which is called Death with Dignity, which was passed in the 90s, the law only allows a mere 2-week waiting period required by assisted suicide proposals in Oregon law, as stated by Golden, Maryland. In that early period, before one learns the truth about how good one's quality of life can be, it would be all too easy, if assisted suicide was legal, to make the final choice, one that is irrevocable. Not only that, but there is actually perfect examples of an 85-year-old, and who, in the Oregonian in October 1999, who, rather than being who actually resulted from pressure by her assertive daughter, who felt burdened with caregiving, the family found another doctor, and Ms. Cheney soon used the prescribed drugs and died. So we see that from this legislation, there is plenty of opportunity for physicians, from bureaucrats, from insurance companies, and from family relatives to abuse this law.